There we go. Cool. All right. So just to start off, my name is Stan. I work for Cleverence for a couple of years. I'm a partner and client executive, so I work with clients and partners, essentially sales. And my past experience for the last 10 years been doing like implementations of inventory management systems. Um, Before that, a lot of different experiences, but yeah, I've worked at a warehouse as well, so I know like the ins and outs of everything. But yeah, since you mentioned you're more in the SaaS space and the technical stuff, that would be very interesting for me to hear what you have to say. So um, yeah, that's about it from my side. Would like to hear if you can give me something about you. So what are you doing right now? The role, the company, the scope, and just so we can have a better picture about you.
Sure. So right now I'm focused on startup operations
Mm-hmm.
and company building work. So that, is primarily partnering with early stage founders and leadership teams as they move from the idea stage into, operational scale, also known as 0 to 1.
Cool.
So my most of my work, kind of centers around helping companies, build the infrastructure that will allow for the growth to happen without everything becoming reactive, and that can mean establishing, like I said, operational cadence, building, and all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it definitely wasn't a master plan when I was younger per se, but looking back, I think every role kind of pushed me toward this operational leadership.
Cool. Kind of like led up to that. Yeah, I feel you on that.
Yeah.
Similar story here. uh, got it. That's cool.
And I
Right
feel
on.
that kind of happens with over time, when people are, growing in their career path. It's never really linear. I mean, for some
Yeah.
it happens like that, but I think for me, I enjoy being able to just kind of say, okay, well, what's next? Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, I completely agree with you. That same thing here, as I mentioned, it was never very linear. It just kind of led me up to where I am right now, and so far so good, which is pretty amazing. Because yeah, I never see myself going into like ranking up the in one direction. Just kind of went all over the place, and then kind of figured out where I wanted to be. So that's cool. Completely agree with you on that. All right. Wanted to also ask as far as what your work like actually looks like. So if we're talking about like operations, whatever, maybe there's a role that you kind of remembered, maybe the one that was the biggest highlight that shaped the way, again, where you are right now, the way you're thinking now. If you have something like that.
So for clarity, can you ask the question just again so I can?
Yes, yeah. So I'm just trying to see what the regular operations look like your day-to-day work, I guess, and if there is one that kind of was the biggest highlight for you that maybe you wanted to kind of mention something.
Chasing clarity because the structure already supports execution. Actually, the very last role that I was in, we that was a challenge for me to really kind of get, because there was no system set up. So, I
Hmm.
had to and establish KPIs, and we talked a lot about the OKRs, which the founder was very excited, had a great product, but there was no roadmap. And so I'm like, you gotta know where you're going. You're going on a
Yeah.
road trip, you gotta know where you're going, if there's a
Yeah.
destination. So, it was really tough. Just to wrap this question up, it was really tough to
Yeah.
execute that with him, because going back to what I said, people first, no one was really aligned around the actual goal or any OKR that was established. So that became
Hmm.
kind of there at that role. But yeah.
That's very interesting. Yeah, and if just to dig a little bit deeper specifically on that,
Mhm.
I was wondering what's the toughest thing out of all of that you kind of noticed for yourself? Is it like to establish that specific roadmap and then kind of like sell it to leadership and then leadership takes act on that, or is it like the hardest to get the people to go along that roadmap that was established? Because personally, like I've noticed the biggest, like my not my issue, but that I've noticed in these specific situations where there's leadership, management, warehouse worker in our part of business. um I've noticed it's very hard to get all of those people align between each other, like, because each and every one of them essentially has their own proper structure that they believe is the best one. But then when you know, implement a new system, if you get something else like you to come in, and you know, leadership does have a plan, they, like, you know how to execute it. But then I feel like the biggest issue, again, this is my side of thing, is that to get everybody else on the same page.
Forward movement. But I'm like, if you don't
Yeah,
have alignment, you're gonna, it's like you're gonna be crashing into into
same
success
thing.
or whatever, or failure, without knowing what you're doing. So I think once you get that clarity from everybody on the team, then you can start to put the pieces together. And it may take a while, but it's worth it in the long run.
Very
Yeah.
true. Yeah, I completely agree with you on that. Yeah, not much else to add there. It's very frustrating to see when people yeah, kind of just close in within themselves and don't really say anything about the problem, and then it just kind of it just snowballs, and then it usually just becomes out of control when people don't communicate properly, specifically in these industries. All right, cool. On the points of the SaaS environment, since we're a SaaS company, just wanted to kind of have some more kind of relevant things. Like, did you ever work with anything like with any systems, like where you were present? You know, they're implementing some systems, maybe, or anything like that, like software, obviously.
Yeah, there was a role that I had that actually, yeah, I have a couple of experiences. One, I say I finally remember, the other not too much, if I'm being honest.
Got it.
Um, yeah, and on one of the companies, it was actually an AI product. And
Oh, cool.
as you know, AI is still evolving. It's not brand new, but it's still new in terms of like its particular applications across different, domains or functions.
Yeah.
And um, you know, that was an interesting situation because we were up against, obviously, and this is every company's challenge, I think. We're up against time,
Yeah.
money, market viability. Like, okay, we want to get to market before someone else maybe that has the same idea. So, have all those elements together. It's like it becomes a pressure cooker. People are like, and then at that point, no one's listening to everybody because they're like, well, we got to do this way. We got to do this way. And it's just like, okay,
Mhm.
hold on. Let's just take a breath
Yeah. The
and see,
fastest way possible.
yeah, what's actually happening here. So yes, I do. I've had that experience. And sometimes it can be fun, the challenge of like really trying to figure out, what's happening, what we're going to do, how we're going to be different from maybe another offering. And then
Mhm.
other times can be, not so fun because, everyone's so kind of like the pressure of, getting this product or this project off the ground that can be tough to deal with.
Right. Yeah. Completely agree with you on that. Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Very well said. Yeah. Very well said. And yeah, there's not much else to add to there, actually. I was thinking of something, but then I was like, no, that's actually right to the point. Right to the
Yeah.
point.
Thank
Um,
you.
yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, just have a couple more questions because I said I'm not that in specifically in operations, but then learning a lot. So this is very insightful for me. So thank you for that. Um,
Sure.
what else do I want to ask? Yeah, just I have a couple more questions. In regards to, I guess, let's call it your expertise, your wisdom on the field, specifically in this business. What would you say is really shifting right now? Is there anything that you've noticed? Is like, obviously the AI is taking a lot of things, but specifically from where you're sitting, is there anything that you've noticed in the past, I don't know, five years, and thinking in the future that, wow, this is actually, changing this whole industry, if there's anything like that?
Let's think about that for a bit.
Because yeah, while you're thinking, because my first thing, again, not expert in this specific field, but I would have thought that due to the AI and some, like companies' repositories and things like that, it always seems like specifically operations could be thriving more now because there's less human to human interaction. They can just go to like AI and say like, okay, hey, like for example, Cleverance, right?
Mhm.
Go into Cleverance database, get me all the answers to my questions instead of going to like the manager. Then if he doesn't have the answer to this question, he's got to go somewhere else. You know what I mean? But that's just my kind of first thing that I thought of as to what's been changing in that side of things.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the biggest shifts is that operations is becoming, I would say, much more data driven and
Okay.
much more real-time than it used to be. Teams used to rely a lot on, manual check-ins, instinct, and this sort of static reporting,
Yeah.
whereas leaders are expecting visibility much faster, and they want to make decisions, obviously with better information. So AI is a big part of that, but I think the larger shift is really around decision velocity.
Mm,
Companies under considerable more pressure to move quickly. So operations is no longer just about, maintaining order. It is increasingly about building systems that help teams get these things done. It's like, okay, take a moment. You still got to get the work done, but I understand. Take your moment, and you need, some time. We got you. So I
right.
think all those things come into play, and I'm happy to say that I feel like a lot of companies are starting to take notice and be a lot more open to that very real thing of like we're dealing with human beings, and things can get
Yeah.
they can get a little messy. you know
Yeah.
yeah.
Very true. And everyone is an individual and everyone has their own days too. So yeah,
Yeah.
I completely agree with you. Back in the day, people used to be treated more like robots, specifically in the supply chain. I've noticed, like as I said, I worked at a warehouse before, and
Yeah.
yeah, just you know, being on the other side of things now, implementing systems, going to warehouses, seeing how even managers talk to like regular operators, warehouse workers is just such a on another level actually. And
Yeah.
I like it, to be honest. I think it's much better because you can clearly see that people are just like they're happy with what they're doing, to be honest. And
Yeah.
it should have been.
Exactly. When people love what they do and, they feel safe, there's a psychological safety in the
Yes,
environment that you're working in. And, there's a level of trust that, the managers and the operational, the upper management can create. There's nothing that you can't do with a team that is also very skilled at those hard skills.
exactly.
That's like the perfect trifecta, if you will. Again, like is already clear, like I, mentioned
Hmm.
before. Other, you're just automating confusion, and
Exactly.
that's not great.
There we go. That's awesome. That's it. So what I want to say is to some of our clients, future clients, present clients, is first go to Norman. He will set you up with the proper structure and then come to us to automate things. Because I've noticed that a lot of times as well. And people expect like the leadership, they expect from automation to come like all these gains. But then
Mhm.
you come there and you realize that even right now, they don't have a proper structure whatsoever. And no matter how many devices, how many softwares, how many gadgets you're going to get in there, and even if you spend $1 million on it, like nothing's going to change because you got to actually step back a little bit and
Yeah,
structure, provide that structure before going to the next steps. So,
yeah. I mean, I always, one of my favorite sayings is, people people create performance, systems create consistency. You need both. But if I had to choose one, I'd bet on aligned people every time because that's the driver of everything we're doing.
there you go. Couldn't have said it better.